Please welcome Kamala Harris! Madam Vice President, hello.
Looks like we're in for a great, unbiased interview. I can't wait.
Hi, everyone.
Can you
oh,
feel?
My goodness,
can you
yes.
feel? Can you feel it? Can you feel the joy rising in here?
I certainly can. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get emotional here. Harris doesn't miss the opportunity to politicize this beautiful moment.
I can, and I have to tell you, there's so much that I love about our campaign because it really is about the people. And I look around at these screens, Oprah, I look at who's in the room, and this is America.
This is
America. You know, I was saying...
This is a segment of the American population. Any politician could say the same about any audience they see. It isn't unique to Harris's campaign in any way, and it isn't proof that her campaign is about the people, no matter how much she's rehearsed nodding her head for validation.
Because it really is about the people.
Talking about the people is one of the most classic rhetorical tactics that politicians use to appear at eye level with the demographics whose votes they want. However, this tactic doesn't resonate with everyone, as it implies that the politician is speaking from a place above the people. To some people, it has a condescending feel to it. Now that she's associated with the audience rhetorically, the next move is to start using the personal pronoun we, as if she's not alone in believing what she allegedly believes. And she does, unapologetically.
This is America. You know, I was saying with a group of friends earlier, I think in this moment where we've dealt with so much that I think is quite exhausting around powerful forces that would try and divide us and try us to have us as Americans pointing fingers at each other.
Yes.
That this movement that is about reminding each other that we have so much more in common than what separates us.
Harris has certain slogans that she uses to present herself as a uniter, as opposed to her political opponent's designated role as divider.
That we have so much more in common than what separates us. Americans have so much more in common than what separates us. We have so much more in common than what separates us.
However, the uniter-divider tactic has no meaning, as it's completely dependent on the eye of the beholder. What seems like unity to some people seems like division to other people.
I believe this is a moment when our country is witnessing an assault on our deepest values and ideals. LGBT rights are under attack. Under attack by a Senate nominee and a judicial nominee, and under attack by a commander-in-chief.
But no, of course Harris is the exception, because she wouldn't dream of pointing fingers at anyone who disagrees with her. Without division, Harris can create her protagonist-antagonist narrative, her us and them discourse, and she can't come across as a uniter or savior. Thus, her rhetoric hinges on division. Her policies and rhetoric could just as easily be described as powerful forces that are trying to divide us. Everything from Harris's words to her intonation and facial expressions is designed to play on people's indignation with this fake outrage tactic. Disney also uses this uniter-divider tactic when they're doing damage control.
Because we're making things that make people connect with one another. And there are people out there who say things that make people want to not come together. That make people want to fight. And it's just not worth the time and energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the truth is, Sackler, who now tries to come across as the uniter, is the one who's created the division. Therefore, this tactic is as deceptive as they come.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
It makes people want to fight. And it's just not worth the time.
To have us as Americans pointing fingers at each other. Is so critically important, and this is about the strength of who we are as Americans, and this movement that we're in about, as I like to say, seeing in the face of a stranger a neighbor.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
An extension of love thy neighbor, that you literally in the face of a stranger see a neighbor.
Yes.
And approach each other with that level of dignity and grace and kindness.
Since you took so long to come up with the last word, I actually thought it would be something meaningful, but no.
And kindness.
And it actually creates an environment that is so fair, but also inclusive.
And kindness.
Constitutive rhetoric is about constituting an audience rhetorically. It's the speaker presupposing that the audience shares the same ideals and goals as her. It's pretend community building with a self-serving purpose to get the audience riled up and get them to do something. In this case, to distance themselves from the supposed antagonist and support the supposed protagonist. Thus, it's no coincidence that Harris keeps saying movement.
This movement and this movement.
Logically, however, there's a problem here, because if Harris presumably speaks for Americans,
of who we are as Americans,
what about all the Americans who don't want to be part of a movement? A question like that exposes that this is purely a rhetorical tactic. It isn't real.
A neighbor?
Yes. Right?
Oprah reacts as if Harris is saying something profound. Her reactions don't seem contrived at all. Way to guide the audience to think the same. This is emotional persuasion, the speaker tapping into and monopolizing certain values that she knows are popular and safe. This serves two functions. One, to imply that her opponents stand for the opposite, and two, to virtue signal. Every pathos appeal in political rhetoric is used for self-aggrandizement, and Harris uses effective prosody to make her point.
See a neighbor.
Yes.
See a neighbor.
Yes.
Effective prosody is when a speaker manipulates her voice somehow to convey emotion, dignity, grace, kindness, all platitudes that have whatever meaning the speaker attributes to them, which actually means that they don't have any meaning. And people who disagree with Harris's opportunistic interpretations of these terms, what level of dignity, grace, and kindness will they be met with?
Under attack by a Senate nominee.
Exactly. Politicians monopolize certain nice-sounding terms before these terms can be used against them.
Dignity and grace and kindness.
Let's open the door.
Yeah.
Let's open the door and invite everybody else in, and everybody actually came.
Organically.
Yes.
Organically.
So for both of us, it was just a really authentic and organic way to get to know each other.
And I really do have an organic and deep love of travel and of food and...
Organically.
Yes.
Organically.
Yes, because if something's actually organic, whatever that means, you totally use this word to describe it. Next, Harris doesn't miss the opportunity to politicize this organic moment.
This is the beauty of our country. There's so much at stake in this election. And ultimately, the question before us is, what kind of country do we want to live in? And the beauty of a democracy, as long as we can hold on to it, the beauty of a democracy is each of us has the power. Each of us has the power to answer that question.
That's right. Everybody on this call and beyond has the power.
With such contrived and unnatural arm movements, shouldn't what you say at least be somewhat qualified? You'd think that with all that rehearsal, she'd not just be stating the obvious. Harris has a hard time memorizing her script, as evidenced by her eye movements, looking down, and the focus shifts from the supposed beauty of our country to there being so much at stake, to what kind of country we want to live in. Different focuses that aren't warranted by Oprah's original remark.
And everybody actually came.
There's nothing organic about Harris's statements at this event, which is exactly why they emphasize that there is. And things are about to get even better.
But can I just start with this?
Yes, please.
I have to say this because in all of my private conversations, Gail, and I've said this 100 times,
Yeah.
And everybody is saying it, you all have said it, I know you have.
There's nothing like leading the audience to the conclusion you want them to draw by presupposing what they've allegedly said. Oprah really doesn't want to be alone in saying what she's about to say, apparently.
It seems to us that something happened to you the moment President Biden, stepped aside and withdrew his candidacy, that a veil or something dropped and you just stepped into your power.
I guess when Oprah starts sounding funny, it's a cue for the audience to start clapping, because in terms of content, there's nothing to clap for.
I mean, literally, looking at you at a speech like the week before, which was a great speech, very nice, and then the next week, I saw you walking in the thing, and I said, what happened to you?
What happened was that Harris was given a script to memorize and was instructed in feigning assertive body language. That's part of politicians' media training. So this has as little to do with stepping into your power, as Oprah very well knows it does. Her question is insincere, but then again, Oprah doesn't seem to care about giving her audience the right impression.
The most important thing for them, before I do any interview, I have a conversation with whoever I'm interviewing and ask, tell me what your intention is, and I will tell you what my intention is, and let's see if we can align those two, because I don't want you to finish an interview and at the end of the interview say, I wish I had said. And
the word intention is interesting. This makes it clear that Oprah isn't an impartial interviewer. As a result, people can't trust that she has anything other than self-serving motives for doing these interviews, simply letting the interviewees make a bunch of claims and presupposing them as truths. Thus, what people see in the interviews isn't the truth, but the result of aligned intentions. Aligning is similar to compromising.
And so when you met her for the first time, it was hard to believe that you hadn't met her before. What was your impression? What did you think? She seems very friendly.
When I'm going to do an interview of significance, I always like to meet with the person before and ask them, what did they really want? What is their intention? What do you want? Because I don't want to end the interview and you say, oh, you should have asked me, or I thought you were going to ask me. So I came here where she was, getting done with her makeup team to this house, and met her before and had a little private conversation about what do you want? And she said, I just want to be able to share my truth and talk about what I've been through and, express that in the most natural way. So that's exactly what happened during this interview.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Really want?
This is Oprah's philosophy in a nutshell. She's not acting as an advocate for the viewer, which is what interviewers are supposed to be, but as an advocate and advertiser for the celebrity. Therefore, it's ironic when she shakes her head no, while saying that the interview went down in the most natural way.
That's exactly what happened during...
Because there's nothing natural about a controlled conversation with aligned intentions. Natural, organic. I wonder why Oprah and like-minded people emphasize words like that. It wouldn't happen to be because what they say and do is the opposite of these terms, would it?
I felt a sense of responsibility, to be honest with you. And with that comes a sense of purpose.
Why wouldn't she be honest? In conversations, people should be telling the truth. So why bring up honesty? Unless it's been on her mind not to be honest, which would match her disingenuous speech behavior so far. Responsibility. Way to make a career opportunity sound like a selfless act for the common good.
But I mean, we're all here and you all are taking time out of your busy lives, everyone here, everyone on the screen, because there really is so much at stake. I have spent the majority of my career.
Yes, I think it's been established that she thinks or pretends to think that there's so much at stake. Come to think of it, it's all that's been established. I wonder why she keeps repeating this. Could it be because it's one of the lines from her script that she resorts to when she doesn't know what to say? No, that wouldn't be organic enough.
Organically.
Yes.
Organically.
Harris' moves in her chair and her excessive arm movements don't correspond to the simplicity of her statements, all indicating that she's struggling to memorize her script. Next, she finally finds something to say, and Oprah's quick to instruct the audience what to think about it. Such beautiful teamwork.
Being concerned about the well-being of other people.
Yeah.
As I've said, in my career as a prosecutor, I never looked at a victim or a witness and asked them, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them is, are you okay?
Are you okay? I know when I heard that. Touch me.
No doubt it touched Oprah, even though every employee in every field could say the same. Waste collectors also don't ask people if they're Republican or Democrat before collecting and disposing of their waste. Teachers also don't ask students if they're Republican or Democrat before deciding whether or not they want to educate them. Does Oprah also find that touching? Does Harris really think that this is a selling point to make her seem caring? They sure don't think much of the audience's ability to think for themselves, let alone think critically, which is most likely why they're so busy praising them. There's nothing like flattery to prevent disagreement from the people you flatter. Lastly, as a prosecutor, you're not only concerned with people being okay, you're primarily concerned with winning cases, and you're not concerned with the well-being of the people you're prosecuting. This is a calculating oversimplification on Harris's part to make her seem compassionate and caring, and the oversimplifications continue.
And traveling this country and knowing what is at stake in terms of fundamental freedoms, what's at stake in terms of fighting against hate and those efforts to divide us. Mm-hmm. And I do know that I'm in a position to do something about it. So I felt a great responsibility. Mm-hmm. And
Harris keeps repeating the self-aggrandizing word responsibility, just to make sure no one misses it. The words freedom and hate are so-called floating signifiers, meaning that what they mean, what they signify, doesn't have a fixed definition, as people don't have the same definitions. Speakers use floating signifiers to give the impression that a complex and ambiguous issue is simple and easy to define, as if love and freedom belong to their side, its subjectivity masked as objective truth. Fighting against hate, efforts to divide us. Who's us? The people she's fighting against are also Americans, which is how it's revealed that the constitutive rhetoric she's been using is only that, rhetoric, because her campaign hinges on division. Without division, she couldn't portray herself as the protagonist because there'd be no antagonist. Thus, it's not in her best interest to do anything about it, contrary to what she claims. Finally, it should be noted that saying fighting against hate is a way of not having to say who she's fighting. Better to fight an inanimate, abstract entity like hate than put names and faces on the people she thinks are hateful. And the incredible power of the people, right? Who... It totally doesn't look and sound like Harris is struggling to come up with something. This must be another one of those organic moments I've heard so much about.
Organically. Yes. Organically.
What can I say? There's just something beautiful and right about the arbitrary nature of her statements, excessive arm movements, and the way she's asking, not stating.
Right? Who...
Next, the faux association and faux assertiveness continue, emphasizing the point about a movement.
I'm not the only leader in this. We're all leaders in this. This is so much bigger than me. Mm-hmm. It's about who we are as Americans. And it's about making clear what we stand for. And what we stand for is about the ideals upon which we were founded, including the importance of freedom and the importance of independence and the importance of dignity and purpose. But it is also about what we stand for in terms of our values.
But it's also about what we stand for in terms of our values. She's literally just mentioned a bunch of alleged values in form of a bunch of floating signifiers, from freedom to dignity to independence, so there's no contrast. This is one of many indications that Harris either doesn't know what she's repeating ad nauseum, or she doesn't have an overview of what she's repeating. Either way, it's not good.
It's about who we are as Americans, and it's about making clear what we stand for.
That's incorrect. It's about what some Americans supposedly are and stand for. It's not about Americans in general. Harris's own rhetoric made that clear.
Fighting against hate and it is about the ideals upon which we were founded, including the importance of freedom and the importance of independence. And
this is the second ideological effect of constitutive rhetoric, where the speaker makes it look like the collective we she's constituted has been in existence for a long time and is the same we today as it was in the past. It's a way of disingenuously making the past match the present. Once again, this is a deliberate oversimplification, because obviously, people have different interpretations of a floating signifier like freedom, and it hasn't always meant the same. If the founding fathers heard how Harris and like-minded people use terms like independence and freedom today, it's more than conceivable that they wouldn't agree.
LGBT rights are under attack.
The second ideological effect is about monopolizing nice-sounding terms in order to make people feel that their opinions are patriotic and have always been the right ones, even though that's almost never the case, as today's societies and the issues we're dealing with aren't directly comparable to the societies and issues of the past.
I think of it this way.
I think a lot boils down to values. I just said values are on the line here.
It does. I mean, think about it, Oprah.
How profound. I've never thought of that before. I mean, it's not like every election in every country is about values. And next, after Oprah has come to Harris's rescue, it's time for another classic from Harris's script in this totally organic conversation.
The idea that some would suggest, and that my opponent and it suggests, which is that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down. Come on. The real measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. And it's important for us.
Absolutely.
Finally, the audience started clapping because they didn't seem entirely sure about when to clap.
It's based on who you lift up. And it's important for us.
Good thing they all started clapping at the same time though. In an organic way, I must say. Yes, because Harris is all about lifting people up, especially her political opponents and people who disagree with her, right?
He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition. By contrast, the former president has none of that.
The real measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up.
Rhetoric doesn't get emptier and more disingenuous than that, and in her interview with CNN, Harris didn't get away with it.
Which is a new way forward and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
But the last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your administration.
I'm talking about an era. I'm talking about an era.
To be fair, this was one of the only things she didn't get away with. I'm curious, who actually suggests this?
The idea that some would suggest, and that my opponent and it suggests, which...
Does Harris even know? And why does she say suggests? Is she not sure what her opponent has said? It couldn't be because she needs her opponent to have suggested this in order to keep her us and them discourse going, could it? No, that can't be, because Harris wants to bring us all together, right? There's a lot more to say about this intellectually insulting event, but this will have to do for now. What do you think about it? Did you find it organic? Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe for more empowering videos. See you next time.